Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Big Brother 26 Roundtable podcast. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to talk through everything that's happening on the Big Brother 26 live feeds and to rate the players from 1 to 10 based on how well we think they are doing in the game. And with me to do it, it's Melissa. How you doing, Melissa?
Oh, I'm doing great. I can't believe the season is almost over. It's been a long journey, but we're nearing the point where it already feels over, I guess. I don't know. I feel like it feels like the season has been long over, but we still need to crown a winner. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yes. Well, also with us, of course, is Mary. Is it Mary?
It's Mary. I'm always
Mary.
Mary. Never ever been anyone else ever.
Okay, interesting. Good to know. How you doing, Mary?
I'm doing good. Yeah, like Melissa said, I think the end of almost any reality season is the hardest part to get through for the most part. Like once in a blue moon, you get a really exciting home stretch where you're really not sure what's going to happen. But there's nothing wrong with the slow end. I actually think on a rewatch, like just the episodes, it's not that bad. But in the real time, it just feels like some of the steam has been used up already, and here we are just kind of coasting to the finish line.
And I don't blame this cast or this season or anything for this. It happens literally all the time. It's just the way it works. It's like by the end, it just kind of drags because there's just not that many people. There's not that many options. So there's not going to be like that much scheming going on for us to watch. So yeah, I'm used to this. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly seasons that have had like exciting end games, but they're pretty rare. You know, that's not exactly the norm. And I think that this season has been so fun all season long. I don't think that slowing down here at the end is really that big of a deal. Especially with this format where they are not speeding up the end game. They used to do that, like Final 5 into Final 4 and so on. But they love stretching it out nowadays. Still shorter than usual, though, which is nice.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we could have had a Halloween party if they stretched it out another 30 days.
Yeah, there you go. So really not that much to talk about here. So this might be a shorter roundtable, but we'll see. Of course, the last time we spoke, MJ was HOH.
Oh wow, deja vu.
Yeah, and she was on her way to take out Leah. Things were not looking great for MJ because there was some talk of targeting her in the double. That did not end up happening. Angela ended up leaving in the double, and then MJ won another HOH. Is now looking to target Kimo. She also then won the veto and thought about using it on Cam, using it to get Cam on the block at least, and maybe take Cam out. But then Cam had a conversation with her and was like, "Hey, what if you don't do that? Because listen, I'm just bad at comps. I'm not throwing. I promise." And she was like, "All right, fine. I won't get rid of you, Cam." And now here we are, Kimo the target, heading into the final four of what is likely to be Makensy, Chelsie, Cam, and Rubina.
Yeah. Honestly, kind of surprised that we ended up having two guys in the final five based on where we were a few weeks ago. But I think, it's kind of what we expected for this point. When you get to a point in the final five where the side of three has mostly in one person more comp wins than the side of two, this is likely to happen. And RIP the trio duo Kimo Rubina. That's it.
Yeah, I think this, like with the way that this week has kind of played out, it's like we kind of knew it was going to be a boring week, but I do think that there could have been some interesting moments if Kimo and Rubina decided to try and campaign to stay in the house. I think there definitely could have been things that they could have done and avenues that they could have tried. With MJ, especially, it wasn't like, Chelsie or whatever. And they just didn't go for it. And so we're kind of just like, there really was no excitement. Like, even if they had tried and failed, at least we would have been like, there may have been some intrigue for this week. But I do feel like once they had kind of accepted their fate of like, okay, well, it's just you versus me, nothing that can be done, then the week just kind of was over before it began. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like thinking, I was trying to think of like what was a recent season with a very different dynamic toward the end. For whatever reason, the first one that came to mind was like season 21. And just when you have at the end two pairs who are really, is that what happened? Or when did Tommy leave? I don't even remember. Was Tommy out fifth or did he get into the final four?
He was out fifth.
Okay, so when Tommy was out fifth, and then you had the two pairs at the end, and you saw the both pairs like actively fight a little more, that's what you would hope in a situation like this. There was a huge opening for Kimo and Rubina to really, really fight for it, really, really, really get into both Cam and MJ's heads that Chelsie is going to win, or really throw Cam under the bus. Either way, there was an avenue here, and I just felt like it was like, oh, we're going to try a little, and then we'll just kind of cross our fingers and hope it worked.
Yeah, I think the most frustrating part of this week in terms of analysis is that it's all the same stuff that we talked about last week and have been talking about all season. It's like, oh, MJ is not taking a shot. Not surprising. Oh, Kimo and Rubina are being too passive. Surprising.
Yeah. I know that's the thing is like, I was thinking like, this is going to be the shortest roundtable ever. Cause it's just like, it feels like we just talked about this.
Yeah.
And not only that, there's less people to rate. So it's like, I just don't even know what more to say. I feel so boring. I feel like I'm just going to repeat myself from last week. I don't know.
Yeah. The most interesting thing that happened, of course, was the almost shot at Cam. I actually do think that would have been the move for MJ. I do think Cam is coming for her at the final four. If he has the veto, I don't know about MJ. And quite frankly, if Chelsie has the veto, I think Cam could maybe get in her ear. I mean, he's gotten into Chelsea's ear before about taking out MJ. It would not super surprise me if he's able to convince Chelsie that if they want a chance to win this game, they need to take their shot at MJ. I believe Chelsie when she says she's like going to take MJ to the final two right now, but only in the sense that like she means it right now. And right before the double, she also meant it when she was trying to get her evicted. So like, I think that she means it right now because she's in power and she's like, oh yeah, she's my girl, Yeah. But next week, if she's not in power, is she still her girl? I don't think so.
Like, I'm trying to remember back before this HOH was won, if Kimo or Rubina had won the HOH, do you think Chelsie would have been in major danger of going home?
If Kimo or Rubina had won this HOH, I think that they would have put up MJ. Yeah. I think she would. I think she would be in very serious danger. I think that the way that Kimo and Rubina have been talking about Chelsie as the main threat, I think, quite frankly, she is out.
You think Cam would have voted her out, or MJ would have voted her out if they weren't on the block?
I don't know that they would have, but they wouldn't have needed to because Kimo, if let's say Kimo's HOH, right, he nominated Chelsie and MJ.
Yeah, break the tie.
Cam votes to keep Chelsie. Rubina votes Chelsie out, and Kimo breaks the tie, and Chelsea's gone.
Yep. Yeah, good point. So, oh well. What if Cam had won?
I mean, that's the thing too. Like, let's say that happened. MJ still wins the veto, takes herself down. Cam goes up, same result. Like we didn't really notice it at the time because the Kimo Rubina thing, didn't become apparent to us that they had fully turned on Chelsie until after. But like that kind of was a must-win HOH for Chelsie post double eviction. Right.
Do you think Cam would have taken a shot at Makensy or Chelsie?
I think he's been looking to take a shot at Makensy. Would he have this week, knowing that Kimo and Rubina go to the final four? hard to say. We certainly know that he was looking to take a shot at the double, so it wouldn't be surprising if he took a shot at 5.
Yeah. Well, that would have been a little bit more interesting of a scenario.
I mean, that's at the end of the day, I think one of the downsides of double evictions is that you can get this scenario where it's the same person.
Same week.
It's never good to have the same person be HOH 2 weeks in a row. Whether it's through nefarious means like the invisible HOH or through just double evictions where somebody is technically an HOH in the middle. It's never fun to have the same HOH back to back. And I think that almost any other result would have been more exciting than in an MJ HOH.
Yeah. Just because we would have seen at least something different, or at least people talking differently to each other versus like, oh, well, MJ's the HOH, so we really can't. Like, we have to talk in a certain way because she's in power and she now has the veto as well. It's like, it's just a repeat of last week, which is just the most boring result, honestly.
So obviously Chelsie is a big threat against MJ in terms of jury votes at the end, most likely, unless some things change based on who goes to the jury. But as of now, is this a massive, massive mistake for MJ to be taking the shot at Rubina and Kimo here?
I mean, at this point, this is why I feel like the analysis is so boring. It's like, who's to really say? For MJ, she's already made the worst mistakes you could make in this game. And she plans to make the worst mistake she can make left, which is to take Chelsie to the final 2. Like, nothing really matters for MJ until she decides she doesn't want to take MJ to the final, or take Chelsie to the final 2. Right. Until that happens, it doesn't matter what she does. You could say like, well, maybe if this happens, then she's less likely to make the ultimate mistake. Or like, let's say like the fact that she's taking out Kimo. Okay, great. That means she's less likely to win the final 3 HOH because Cam will be there, and Cam is a little more likely to win the final 3 HOH than Kimo. Therefore, that's slightly better for her, but not, because Cam, maybe Cam then cuts Chelsie, right? Like, but probably not. So that's not even better. So what is better? It's not better.
Yeah.
But it's not significantly worse because she's
I feel like we'd have to go backwards and have her make some different choices.
I'm sure we did it at the time, but now I'm just wondering, like, I definitely feel like it was a horrible mistake for MJ to take out Angela. Taking out Leah at the time seemed terrible based on how many people were left and everything. But I almost wonder if she had kept Leah in and then got to the end with Leah. I think Leah wins that, though. So, I mean, that's the same as her going to the end with Chelsie. She still loses.
I think that Leah is much worse off in the final 2 against MJ than Chelsie is, though I don't disagree. It's a dangerous position for MJ. That being said, I didn't want Leah there for MJ so that she could bring Leah to the final 2. I just wanted Leah there so that she had more numbers, so that she was safer going into the double, safer going into the end game, and had options moving forward. I think that at the end of the day, yes, the move here is definitely take out Cam. It's the fact that she had Chelsie co-signing it, which was an awful move for Chelsie to begin with. Just don't back off. Chelsie continues to co-sign. You take out Cam here. It forces Chelsie to be loyal to you at Final 4. At this point, Kimo and Rubina are both looking to take out Chelsie over you at Final 4, which means you just have to hope she doesn't win Final 4 HOH, and you might be like decently safe going into a final 3 with either Chelsie gone, where you now are going to take either Kimo and Rubina and probably beat them, or you lose Kimo or Rubina at final 4 and you're going into a final 3 where you have a great shot to win that final 3 HOH, and that sucks if you do because you take Chelsie and you lose. But like, it's definitely a lot better to take out Cam here.
I think the main lesson learned from this season for future players should be, if you're in power and you have relationships with 2 different sides of people, you need to put up one from each side. Like, it's been stated over and over and over. And I know that there was, because even at first, like when I was just thinking about some of the different scenarios of, back when Leah had her HOH, of like, what would I do? And I can really understand why someone would say, yeah, but I only want one side to be mad at me, not both. Forgetting that if both sides are mad at you, kind of neither are usually. They have to concentrate on being mad at each other as opposed to mad at you a lot of the time.
I mean, what I would say is that, you know, in MJ's position, there was a third option, which was better, which is put up somebody who's not on your side at all.
Well,
Yeah, that would help.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think the, you know, I think last week, 2 weeks ago, I was saying on the roundtable on podcasts, like it really did feel like Chelsie was locked to win the game. It felt like it was when Leah did not target Chelsie. I was like, okay, I think it's pretty close. As soon as MJ wins and takes out Leah, it's like, okay, she's locked in. Like it's hard to see a world where she doesn't win this game. Now, since then, there have been a few different spots that have opened up, like this week where she really could have left. The fact that Kimo and Rubina have turned on Chelsie is huge in terms of her expected actual path to the end and win equity. Lucky for her, they're not winning comps, so she's fine for now. But that has not been great. And you can also sort of see some openings in terms of the jury vote, in terms of people potentially cutting her in the end. It's definitely not as locked as I felt it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, though it's continuing to like relock with all of these MJ wins and with MJ being so stuck to Chelsie. So I think the main story of these last few weeks obviously has been Chelsea's maneuvering. But you know, as per this season and as per Chelsie, it's a lot messier than it probably needed to be.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, should we talk about some of the survey questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's do it.
All right. Let's do that. Of course, you can fill out the survey if you want. It's over on Twitter. Tweeted it out. There's a little bit of time left. You got like 5 minutes if you want to continue to fill this out. But we ask the audience to rate the players and also some survey questions. So one of them is, can you rank the players from your favorite to your least favorite? Who do you guys think is the audience favorite this week?
Maybe Chelsie or Cam? I don't know. Maybe Chelsie?
I can give you a hint, which is that last week it was Angela.
Oh, boy.
I'm going to go, this is like a shot in the dark. I'm going Rubina.
All right,
I'll think I'm tired of the power.
I feel like, okay, I think maybe Cam.
All right. This week, Cam is the fan favorite of the remaining players.
Yep. There's not that many choices left.
Well, here's the thing. Last week, the top two were Angela and Leah.
Oof.
So that was a rough double
Bad week for everyone.
those folks. Third place was Cam. So
makes sense.
Yeah. In fact, this is going to be a memory test because literally nothing changed on the favorite player rankings. Just Angela and Leah were evicted. Everyone else stayed exactly the same. So if you can remember the order from last time, you can nail 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, I don't remember it, so this is like all new to me, I guess. I think it would be Cam, Chelsie, Rubina, Kimo, MJ.
Nailed it.
Really?
Wow. Look at that.
Wow. I didn't think I was going to get it right. I was like, I literally don't remember.
It's exactly what it was last week, just minus Angela and Leah. So, I mean, not much more to say there. I would expect MJ is probably on the rise with the comp winning again, but still in last place, still reeling from that previous week.
I feel like it's just that, or at least for me, like I was feeling positively about MJ a few weeks ago because I felt like she was, well, first of all, she seemed like she was on her own. She seemed like maybe she was starting to like wake up or whatever and starting to realize like her positioning in the game because she was talking more with Leah and it seemed like she was kind of reaching out to other people. And then, you know, she got power and it was exciting. And then she proceeded to make like the most boneheaded move. And so it was like, okay, I'm feeling less goodwill towards MJ now because I do feel like she squandered her, you know, opportunity to really come into her own in the game and become like a potential fan favorite, or who knows, like if she had just like comped out near the end and was just taking everybody out and like making all these smart decisions, and she really like clicked in, like I feel like people would really love her. But unfortunately, she just was making these dumb moves and then still winning power and then still making dumb moves. And so it was just like, enough, please. Like either make a smart move or don't win any more power, because it's not good for you. It's bad. So, that's my thought on MJ, unfortunately.
It's really interesting because I feel like sometimes we have this type of person who's just like, almost like if you had Rubina and like if Rubina was a comp beast and was sticking with T-Core and was just like, T-Core is going to win, but you know what? I'm her friend. I'm so loyal. I don't even care that this is bad for my game. And like openly says that. If that's one thing. We've seen that in the past. I think the problem with MJ is that she's like, she's being told why something is bad for her game. And she's not even just saying, yeah, but I'm friends with Chelsie. So the end. She seems to be trying to convince herself that it is somehow okay for her to be.
Well, it's also like Chelsie wanted nothing to do with her for half the season. Like Chelsie was like complaining about MJ being stuck to her all season long. And then finally realized she was beneficial to her game, so started like actually using MJ in the way that she should have been from the start, and has been actively trying to get MJ out of the game as early, like less than 7 days ago. And meanwhile, MJ's like, well, she's my friend, so but I'd rather lose to her than cut her. And it's like, see, that's like, I can respect it if it's like Kimo and Rubina. I'm not happy about it, but I can respect it.
Right.
If you're saying that and the other person is running around doing other things, like,
yeah, you look foolish. It's sad. Yeah. And it's like, I will fully say this may be an unpopular opinion. I think it is completely fine and completely understandable why in social strategy games people end up prioritizing friendship and the relationships they've made over the gameplay. When you're with these people for this long, it starts to get in your head. Even though they're playing a game against you, you start feeling like you can trust them and you like them, and you start thinking, oh my gosh, it's hard to think about your life outside the game and the fact that you're going to go back home and maybe you'll keep in touch, maybe you won't. Are you really going to be best friends forever? Maybe some people will be, some people won't. But like we've seen over and over and over, people make boneheaded decisions at the end of the game to stand loyally by. Usually it's because they've been best friends from the beginning and really have had their back. So that's what's different about this season. I think MJ she really could not find her footing for so long that when she finally did with Chelsie, and when Chelsie finally started paying attention to her, she was like, that's it, I'm all in. And I can't look back.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's really the story of the season that MJ is on a path to potentially lose this game is the throw of the century. I mean, like with the wins that she's had and the position that she was in, she should be winning this game, and we should be talking about how MJ is stomping her way to the end, and instead she's just handing it away, which is wild. All right, I asked the audience to rate the episodes this week. Last week they were a 5.2. This week 4.6.
Okay.
Yeah, just kind of dull.
Well,
get it.
I don't know though, because I actually feel like, well, it really depends on how much you liked Janky World.
True. I also last season the episodes were 3.7, so still better than last season at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Asked the audience to rate the feeds this week. Last week there were 5.1. This week 3.6.
Yeah, that checks out.
Big dip.
But I think again, it's not that something bad is happening. It's just gets slow at the end, and that's what it is.
It's still a lot better than last season, which was a 2.6.
Like I'm trying to think. I don't know if you have this data past last season. When was the last time that we had a home stretch like this with like really high excitement toward the end?
I'd be curious to check the Big Brother 24 endgame numbers. There was a lot of pessimism, but hope still. So that's kind of what I'm interested to see
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, that one maybe did feel a little different. Maybe because like, yeah, I think you were totally right. It was like, well, this isn't going to happen. And then it was like, well, is it?
So the penultimate week, final 5, BB24 episodes were a 6.0. Feeds were a 5.5.
Wow.
So definitely a lot better.
I mean, it's interesting that this week we had the double eviction and the episodes were still rated so low. I mean, the double eviction sucked, but I'm just saying, like, generally, like a double eviction really like boosts up the ratings. Like people really like that. It's exciting. It's this, that, and the other thing. But this double eviction, I mean, I was so bored. I like just felt like I didn't feel the typical double eviction, like jitters or energy or like, I don't know. I just feel like it just wasn't there for me. I think because I had already seen the writing on the wall, and then you see the people who win and the fact that they're just like, yeah, we already know what we're doing. All right, let's just do it. Let's just execute. It's like, that is so dull and boring. And like, I get why the moves were made as they were made, but it's like, for a viewer, it's like you want some sort of like excitement or some sort of like, oh my God, they might win or whatever. Like, but I wasn't feeling it, this double eviction at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, having relatively recently watched a lot of the older seasons, I remember watching those and feeling like at the end, because they would get down where there's, 2-3 people and then still have several episodes on just those people. And I feel like while it was slow, it felt different. It felt like there was still more that they were doing, even though a lot of it was just like, look at these people being alone in the house and thinking about their game. And so, like, I know a lot of people in the chat are saying, like, I wish we could speed up the end game. It's already massively sped up considering how they used to do it. But why is it that it still feels, I guess it's just because the show feels like it needs to have like segment, gimmick, that it doesn't like stop to breathe at all. And so then it feels like when they do slow down, that there's just nothing there.
Well, I did ask the audience to rate the season as a whole so far. And this is where like sometimes the season will suffer, in this slower portion. Ratings have dropped over the course of the season. I can say that last week, the season as a whole was a 7.3. This week, season as a whole, 7.3.
Oh,
no drop.
All right.
No
That's
drop.
Good.
Now, compare this to last season at the penultimate week, final 5. I asked the audience to rate the season as a whole, 4.5.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I don't think, as much as we're like, oh, it's boring, whatever, I don't think there's anyone that is left in the house that if they win, I think it would ruin the season for me or anything like that. Like, I think anyone winning from this point forward, like, I feel like it would not change my views on the season. I think it would be, there are some results that are more exciting than others, or some results that are more, like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I think like generally there have been some past seasons where it is like, we get down to the final 5 or whatever, or final 4, final 3, whatever. And I'm like, man, if this person wins, this season is over. Or like this season will be ruined for me. It will taint the rest of the season. Even if we had a great like whatever season, the second half, no, this just kills it. And I do think that this final group of people, like, I could see any of them winning it, and I would be okay with any of them winning. I wouldn't be necessarily like top tier winner or anything like that for some of them, but I would be okay with if any of them won.
Yeah, I feel like there are seasons where you have someone who is not a great person, and so it feels real icky and unfun when they get to the end and win. And then you have seasons where, not to name any names, there might be someone who's like really under edited or just invisible, has had zero effect on any of the gameplay, and then all of a sudden at the end gets in an alliance and has a chance to win, and you're like, oh my gosh, if they win, what is happening? And at least with this season, like, even Kimo and Rubina or Cam or any of these people who like haven't done a ton, have not made a huge ton of moves, their presence and their lack of doing things has affected the season. And so if someone like that won, it's like, well, that's very representative of this season, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Listen, Kimo just peaked too early. He made his big move in week like 3.
And then he's like, we're done here. Nothing further for me to do.
But yeah, I thought it was interesting. You know, all season long, BB26 has been competing with BB25, and BB25 has been outperforming in season as a whole ratings for a while, up until around Zombie Week, when season 26 finally caught up and started overtaking. And now BB26 has held fairly strongly up at a 7.3, whereas BB25 had fallen all the way down to a 4.5 at this point in that season. So rough one. I asked the audience to rate MJ's HOH reign last week. I wanted to compare. Now that the week is over, how do you feel about her week last time? Last week, it was given a 1.7. This week, a 2.3. So a slight bump.
Ooh,
slight
she's doing
increase.
so much better.
She didn't go home in the double. She won the following HOH. Results-oriented thinking says, wasn't that bad. Still pretty bad. Still 2.3, but not 1.7.
Yeah, it's just that there wasn't a massively better move that she could have made this week. I mean, there were better ones, but it wasn't.
Could have taken out Cam. I did ask also rate MJ's HOH reign this week, which was a 3.5. Still pretty bad.
So she's doing much, much better. Wow. Improving every
honestly,
single rating.
More than double her last HOH.
Wow. Reign. Good for her.
Yeah. Ask the audience to rate Chelsea's double eviction HOH reign. 5.7.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like she did what needed to be done from her perspective. Like, it was very boring for everyone else, but it was, I get why she made that move, and she did it very cleanly. So yeah.
I mean, it wasn't ideal. She had to put up both Kimo and Rubina, which is definitely part of why they have turned on her this week. But what else could she have really done?
Like, was there another option? I mean, plus, like, at that point, it was like, it's been like, they've been the pawns for every HOH. It's not like, what, they're only going to be mad at her. I don't know. I feel like it's like they have many people they can be mad at this point. So
now, in comparison, Bowie's double eviction HOH reign last season, 1.9.
Yeesh.
So slightly better than MJ's Leah HOH.
Okay. What did Bowie Jane do?
She took out she went after, it was like America and Blue that went out.
Okay. Yeah.
She had, basically, it was the one opportunity that anybody had to take out Jack.
And she didn't do it. Okay. Yeah. Well, she was in the Mafia and everything, so makes sense.
So I asked, did MJ make the correct decision with the veto this week? 66% of the audience say no. Honestly, I'd expect more. I mean, granted, I think it would have been a mistake to use the veto and put up Cam and not send him home. But to put him up and send him home would have been. So, like, there's a world where using the veto is a worse move, and there's a world where using the veto, I think, is a better move.
Yeah, so I also kind of feel like once you put up your initial nominee, like, I just feel like it was a little late, and a little that it might not actually go through, and it just seemed maybe more messy. It was definitely more risky if she made the move to, like, put Cam on the block. I feel like I get why, after she, made the initial noms and kind of made it clear what the plan is, that she didn't, like, move forward with putting Cam up, but still, yeah. I think that the whole week could have gone differently for her. And I think all last week could have gone differently for her. So I don't know.
Well, finally, I asked the audience, who do you want to be evicted this week? 68% say Kimo over Rubina.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like it's like we've kind of already accepted that we've kind of already accepted him leaving, like, so many times at this point, that now it's just Truly. Like, oh, I guess Kimo again. I don't know.
All right.
I also feel like it's like Rubina's maybe a more interesting person to keep in, because it does seem like out of the two of them, like, she is maybe more likely to make a move or do something or try and strategize, where it does feel like Kimo's kind of had, like, the wind sucked out of him in regards to like
Melissa,
strategizing.
you don't know what kinds of songs he's going to come up with next.
That's true. You know what? I do like musicals, so let's keep him in. Let's keep him.
I actually love the song segments. You know what?
I like, you know, I love the improv between him and Cam. I think they're very funny. I think the song stuff is great.
Well, maybe someday we'll rate songs on the Stockwatch, and Kimo will be up there.
Ooh, yeah, that would be pretty good.
Until then, are we ready for the actual Stockwatch?
But we should do an off-season like podcast where, I don't know if this has already been done. Maybe it's already been done. An off-season podcast where you like rank the past like Big Brother songs that have been created in the house. There are so many now at this point, I feel.
I mean, it'd be all Kimo and then one Justin.
No, it would also be the big blue couch or whatever it was.
Yeah, there's been more.
What was that? There was another one.
Listen, okay, fine. You caught me. I'll include Mike Boogie's raps. Jeez.
Okay, see, more. And then wasn't there like Shelly doing one back in Big Brother 17 or something?
What was the one where they were like the three boys? I mean,
the Wax.
Oh yeah, you got the Wax Street Boys too.
That was production.
Yeah, that's production.
Does that not count? I feel like it's similar.
But didn't Shelly do she did a musical back in Big Brother 17?
It's ringing a bell.
I don't remember what the song was.
Oh, wait. There was a song. Hold on. There was a song that Audrey was in.
Audrey.
Yes.
It was Audrey.
Yes,
it was Audrey. Yes, it was you know what? I used to have it memorized, but I don't remember it anymore.
There was something. Yeah. I thought that they did like a musical with a few of them.
Yeah, they did. They did. But I remember there's like a clip from the live feeds of Audrey practicing the song, and they all do it together.
BB17 had lots of shenanigans.
Yeah.
That's so
they really
funny.
Did.
There's so many. Yeah, there's some good songs. So I think that would be a good podcast. But anyway, we'd have to like go back and find all the clips.
All right. Well, let's then rate the players. Of course, this is a portion of the podcast where we rate the players from 1 to 10 based on how well we think they are doing in the game. And for the first time this season, we will not be starting with Angela. Instead, we will be starting with Cam.
A new era.
Who had a bit of a near miss this week, but he's through it now, and that's pretty good for him. I think there's a world where like Chelsie obviously benefits the most from a final 3 with Cam and MJ. But she seems so willing to actively campaign to evict both of them at times. So I'm not entirely sure what Chelsie would try to get MJ to do if MJ were to win the Final 4 veto. But it feels like MJ has basically resigned herself to a Final 3 with Cam. Rubina's just not made enough effort. There was this flirtation with the idea of going to the Final 3 with women and Rubina. But it does feel like he's fairly locked into a Final 3 with MJ. But on the flip side of that, I do think that he takes the shot at MJ at 4 himself if he has the ability to, which would be very good for him. Obviously, a Final 3 of Cam, Rubina, Chelsie, like all of a sudden looks like a world where Cam has a great chance to win the game. All it requires is either Rubina winning the Final 3 HOH or Cam deciding he wants to win and taking Rubina over Chelsie, right? Like all of a sudden it's like, hold on, can Cam win this whole thing? And I think the possibility remains open. I think he did some good work on MJ this week, saving himself. So yeah, I feel like he's not in a bad place here, Melissa.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think especially like if he gets to the final 2 chairs, like I think it's a good chance for him. I mean, I do think that like I think the concern I have for really anyone is, so let's say Kimo gets out this week. If Rubina is in one of those final 2 chairs, like I feel like she's already got 2 locked in votes with the trio. And I feel like I would be afraid to go to the final with either Kimo or Rubina, even if I felt like, well, I've done way more than them. I feel like they've already got locked in votes, and that would scare me to have somebody who had someone so locked in. Whereas I feel like everybody else, I don't really believe that there are locked in votes. correct me if I'm wrong, but like from my perspective, it really doesn't feel like anyone else in the jury is like locked in like that trio is in regards to the actual votes. So I think,
yeah, I mean, we suspect. I would assume that Quinn would lean Chelsie, and that like those three would likely be Chelsie without the other three there, or at least Tikor would be. Honestly, I'm not going to count Rubina and Kimo as Chelsie votes anymore. But I will say that Tikor, I think, would be locked in Chelsie. I think Quinn would lean Chelsie, but you're right. We don't know. We don't have like super locked in confirmation for any of those others.
Yeah, like I absolutely think Chelsie has a very strong chance if she is in the end of getting a bunch of votes. But I do think that the fact that that trio got to go to jury together, I think that's really, really dangerous. But I do think that Cam, like, I mean, obviously he's not good at competitions, as we saw this week. But I do think he has like likability, and also the fact that he's not good at competitions, like maybe that allows somebody to say, well, I'll bring Kim along because he's not gonna stand a chance in these competitions and I can beat him in that or whatever. And I feel like one of his big like issues in the beginning was that people saw him as a comp threat, and so it was like, well, we've got to take him out before he starts winning everything. Well, it turns out he's not going to win everything. So I don't know. I think if he gets to the end, he has a fairly good shot. But I think the issue is he's trying to get to the end with Chelsie, and I think Chelsie beats him in the end. So, yeah, I don't know. It's tough.
I think my main question is, no matter who he's against in the end, what's his final speech? Like, I want to know how he encapsulates his game.
I think his final speech is going to be something along the lines of, I've played this game, you know, the way that I like to play things. And, you know, all season long, I've been shouting out my dogs at the crib. And I just want you all to know that it turns out you guys were my dogs at the crib all along.
Iconic.
Wow. What a speech.
Applause, standing ovation,
unanimous
victory.
Confetti.
Like, if he takes out Makensy or Chelsie and then gets to the end and says, I took out Chelsie, who was the biggest social threat, strategic threat, or I took out Makensy, who was the biggest comp threat, or something like that, I think at least he's got a little something there. I'm just curious to see how he packages it.
He's strangely good at advocating for himself when he speaks up. I just don't know that he will have the passion he needs, but I don't know that anybody will, to be honest. It's not a very like, you know, I think Kimo certainly would. But like, I don't think that we have a very like.
No, Angela was the only one bringing the passion.
Right. Like, so yeah, I don't know, you know, like, like I could see Chelsie going weirdly like Jag-like with it, like, yeah, I got you all. Or she could be too light and be like, what are you talking about? I didn't play you guys. So you know, it's hard to say. I think that I think that Cam would perform better than Rubina at selling his game. I think he would perform better than MJ at selling his game. But I think that Chelsie likely has him beat with a speech, but also the speeches don't matter. So
yeah, he is very good at improv. So I do think he could like come up with something that was pretty good. But yeah, I do think that if he's there with Chelsie, that would be a hard one because I think like a lot of, unless he takes Chelsie out, I feel like most of his, you know, strategy this whole season, or like what I did this whole season, was work with Chelsie. I don't really feel like he has, they're going to ask that classic question of like, what moves did you make that were yours alone and not Chelsea's? And he like, I mean, what would he say in that situation?
I actually think,
unless he takes her out at the end.
I think where Cam thrives is if the jury comes for him, because like we've seen him in those scenarios where Chelsie is coming at him, and he's very good at, like I said, like standing up for himself in a very like soft way where he doesn't feel defensive. It just feels like, hey, this is how I feel. And just like advocates for himself very well. It's something that Taylor was obviously extremely good at. You know, I don't think he's going to be able to come out blazing with a speech, but I think that if like say he's up against Chelsie in the final two, or somebody in the like maybe MJ in the final two, and MJ's like, this guy was useless, he did nothing, I think that that he would be able to retort really well. If the jury came at him with some pointed questions, I think that he'd be able to give some good responses and make people feel like second guess themselves on how harshly they want to judge him. But like I said, I don't think any of it really matters.
Yeah, it's hard to advocate for yourself if you're not given an opportunity to rebut something. So that's a good point.
Yeah. All right. So last week, Cam was at about a 6. It's a tough one here. I feel like I'm roughly the same on Cam right now, at around that 6. I don't know how you guys feel.
I feel similarly. Just like I mean, I feel like the week is just like the same week. I guess like maybe because there was an option that he was going to go up on the block, like maybe that's not so great for him, but at the same time, he didn't go on the block. He was able to talk his way off of it. So, yeah, I think I want to stick with the 6. I don't really feel like his position has changed.
Yeah, I had him at a 6, which was the same as last week. Moved him down when he was going to go home, and then moved him back up to a 6 once he got his way off the block.
Yeah, I was in a similar spot. I was like, oh, Cam's going down, but then he saved himself. So kudos to Cam. The audience not feeling quite as generous for Cam. They gave him a 5, which I thought was an interesting rating. Weirdly low on Cam, especially given they chose him as their favorite this week. I was a little surprised to look at that right
now. Well, I mean, I guess it's the same as last week. So if we're saying
true.
that our ratings are the same, then like
maybe
I guess that
they
makes
just
sense.
Continue to feel like we're overrating him, because it was the same last week. Let me I wonder if it's
gone. Is it even just like a little bit up?
Let's see. It's actually slightly down. It was a 5.37 last week, a 5.01 this week. It was right on the dot of 5.
I wonder if it's possible just that, like, for a decent chunk of the week, he was in serious danger, and that's kind of more top of mind than like, oh, and then he got himself saved. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
plus it was like he didn't like, it wasn't like he like really saved himself. I don't know. I feel like it was like,
right.
It wasn't some impressive like save. I feel like it was just kind of like
it was a save. It wasn't like a flashy save,
but it's like
he was
but
he was
you
on his way out the door.
How much higher can you move up when you save yourself out of a bad position? Is that better than not having been in the bad position to begin with?
Like, if I think if we were looking at him as somebody that was likely to win it all, like this would be a hardcore like all-time save, you know what I mean? Like, this would be like a Dane level save. Like, he saved himself, you know what I mean?
I think if it was like we thought he was for sure the winner, like, and then he saves himself in this situation, it's like I think you're right. I think I would have given him more credit in that situation. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about Chelsie. Last week, Chelsie got a 9. I do feel like the week has kind of opened up some holes, and I haven't loved I didn't love that she tried to get MJ out in the double, and then got caught doing it. And she weathered the storm. It didn't hurt her too much there, but like it certainly didn't help her with Kimo and Rubina, who are now looking at targeting. The main thing for me this week, as opposed to last week, is that Kimo and Rubina are actively talking about Chelsie as the front runner to win, and talking about how she needs to go and they can't be in the final 2 with her. Like, that sucks for her in terms of where she was before. And
but one of them is leaving.
Love how close she seemingly came to taking out Cam this week. So I just don't know for sure that I can trust her at the final 4 to not cut Cam or MJ.
Yeah,
which puts her in like a rough place for the final 3. So I think I'm going to be slightly back down to an 8. I still think she's a likely winner.
Yeah, I feel like I might stick with my 8 at this point. I think you're right. Like, I think the fact that she's still here, number one, like, I mean, she had the double eviction and all these, there was like 3 HOHs in between the time that we last rated her and now. So I think the fact that she's still here and the fact that we still view her as the front runner, I mean, that's obviously really good for her. But I do think that, like you said, there are some situations where she is not playing as great as we might hope. I mean, for like you said, the fact that she was possibly on board with taking out Cam this week, like that's not the move. So yeah, I feel like some not great things, but overall I feel like the week has gone pretty well for her, and she's still in such a good position that you know, I mean, especially in comparison to everybody else who's still in the house, like I feel like I don't really see, if she gets to the end, I really do think that it's her. Like, so I think it's just about getting there. And at this point, Kimo or Rubina, yes, they've been saying like, well, we can't go to the end with Chelsie, but one of them is leaving this week. So that's one person left who's saying, oh, I can't go to the end with Chelsie. And like, okay, sure. But she has Cam, she has MJ. As long as they, you know, all stick together, then I think that she is in a good spot. And I definitely think that she can have the votes to win.
Ugh. It's tricky. Because all it takes is Cam or Makensy deciding they don't want to go to the end against her. And then, you know, she could win. She could win a challenge, but we just don't know yet. Anyone could. I don't know. I was between a 7 and an 8, honestly. Not because I really feel like she did anything terrible. I just feel like she didn't do a ton. But I guess if we're keeping her close to where she was last time, I guess I can't really fault her. I guess she didn't really do anything a whole lot worse than last week. So I guess I'd keep her at an 8. It was close for me, though. It was a low 8.
Well, the audience also gave Chelsie an 8 this week.
There we go. Across the board.
So it's going to be straight 8s there. Wow. I'm curious. They are actually slightly up from last week. So we're just on different pages, us in the audience right now. All right, let's move on then to Kimo. Seems like it's finally his time, and boy, you can really blame him too, because there was such a wide opening for this to be Cam and not Kimo, and he basically didn't even try. Like,
no fight, nothing. Yeah, I mean, like,
and we've been saying no fight for like weeks now. Like, I feel like it's not just like, well, it's the end of the game and he just gave up. I don't know what's going on. It's like this whole time, every single time he's been nominated, I haven't seen any fight in him. Like, it's always been like, oh, well, actually, let's get this other person out before Kimo. And like, that's all it is. And he's just been a pawn every week, but it's not because of anything he has done. He hasn't tried at all. It's so depressing.
Like, the one thing I could say is maybe he was passive in other weeks to try and just hide and be hope that other people vote out the other person on the block, which worked for him for all those weeks. And maybe he's like, you know what? I just really can't fight against Rubina. Like, I have to just let it go for either of them. But like, dude, you could be in the final 4 and you're like decent at competitions.
And they could have gotten Cam up. Like, it's not even like fighting against Rubina necessarily at that point. Like, he could have put himself in a position where he wouldn't have to go against Rubina, and they could have gotten one of them off the block. Like that.
It's a meme about how much he has all season talked about the idea of talking to people and talked about plans to doing it and just not doing it. And it's not like there aren't opportunities to talk, and they're so busy and there's so many people in the house, and it'd be hard to get someone away at this point when there are 5 people left in the game. So yeah, it was bad. It was not good.
I feel like I'm just so surprised, because I just feel like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like, I guess I'm not like surprised that Kimo's not doing anything, but at the same time, like, it feels so odd, because in the beginning, you know, when him and Tikor, they made that big move, like where they flipped the whole house and this whole thing. And so we know he has it in him. We know he can do it. We know he had the interest in playing, but then where did that interest go? Like, why did it just stop, seemingly?
I think he had power then. He could flip that vote. He had the numbers to do so. If he had won this HOH, I think he evicts Chelsie, right? And like becomes a front runner to win the game, you know. But he needed to win. He didn't have the social strategic chops to pull something off without the power to do so, or the gumption, quite frankly, to try to get that power without winning the competition. So I think that's the big difference, is that he just had the power before, he doesn't now.
Yeah.
There's like this new type of classification I want to give to players like Kimo, where he's not a floater, not a coaster even. He's in an alliance. He's firmly in an alliance that could do things and just chooses not to. And it's not like because he mistakenly thinks he's safe, and it's not because of loyalty to the people in power. It's not because he's trying to play a middle game. It's just because he's chosen to do nothing. Like, what do you even call that? And you've chosen to do nothing, and it's not like you're in the middle and so you have no way of doing it. You're by yourself, you're on an island. No, he's had people. He's had allies. I just don't get it. It's fine.
There's got to be a good name for that. I'm just not creative enough to think of it.
I don't know. I don't
know. All right. What's the rating here for Kimo then?
I feel like I want to give him a 1.
An NPC.
I just feel like an NPC. Yeah, honestly.
Pacifist. I don't know. It's whatever.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat trying to figure out all the ideas.
I can tell you the audience gave Kimo a 2.
Yeah, I'd probably give him a 2 only because I feel like there's people get 1s when they do something actively bad and he's just done nothing.
I don't know. I feel like I want to give him a 1 because I'm just so sick of him not doing anything.
Then
like
do it.
It's just like I just feel like it's like I don't know. It's like he's gonna leave the house when he really did not need to leave, and just because he didn't do anything. And I'm just gonna give him a 1. Whatever. I'm gonna give him 1. Who cares?
Womp womp.
Wow, this sounds kind of different this time.
Listen, it's a new soundboard.
So. I love that soundboard.
I do. It's such a strange feeling because like he had all the right plans, he just didn't do any of them. So it's like I want to give him credit for coming up with the plan, but he didn't do the plan. So I think I have to agree with the 1 ultimately. All right. Let's move on to MJ, our HOH, our veto holder. I mean, listen, she won this HOH. She won this veto. She's basically indicated that she is going to be winning probably more competitions. Now, she may be in a must-win spot at the Final Four, but she seems like a favorite to win any given competition at this point, and that's pretty good. The problem is that if she does, she plans to go to the end with Chelsie, where she probably loses, which is bad. So, where does she actually fall here is the question.
It's tough because I feel like she's not making any correct moves necessarily that like really put her in a good spot, but she's just winning.
What did she do this week beyond win 2 competitions?
Right. But here's what I will say. When you compare her to Cam, they're both in a situation where they're sticking with a person who could probably beat them, staying with their alliance, and they might get to the end. At least she will be able to say at the end that she won challenges. Now, I'm not saying that should give her a win, because in some ways it's worse if you're winning challenges and then making bad moves with them, but at least it's something she can say.
I think like the difference for me between her and Cam is a few things. It's like, number 1, Cam and Chelsie were aligned since the beginning. And like Taran had said, like we had talked about how like MJ wasn't part of that. She like thought she was or wanted to be a part of it. And finally Chelsie was like, okay, I guess she can be useful for me. I'll take her on. Whereas like, I get why Cam is like, yeah, Chelsie and I are working together, because they are, or they were. And now MJ's part of it. Yeah, I get that. But like, it was not part of the whole thing. And then also for me, I do feel like MJ is winning competitions. She has power to make moves and do things that are beneficial to her game. And yet she chooses not to. She chooses to do things that are bad for her game and that are like just wrong uses of power. Whereas like with Cam, I can argue in my head, like, well, if Cam did have power, if he did win this competition, he would have made the right move with this. It's just, we haven't seen Cam actively make bad moves at this point.
I agree. I do I would trust Cam with power way more than MJ at this point. We've seen MJ with power. She consistently makes bad decisions. Cam has much more consistently made decisions that were beneficial to him. He just hasn't had the power to do much more than that. And I talked about it this morning, but like Cam is the only one left who has been like on top of each vote. Like Cam hasn't lost a vote yet. Chelsie lost the T-Core vote. You know, the MJ, after targeting Leah, lost the Leah vote. But Cam has consistently been on the right side of that. And the one time he was not in, recent memory was when he could have been. They just didn't tell him. It was a last minute flip. I do think there's something there. I think that Cam with power is a lot more likely to do a correct thing, whereas MJ with power is targeting Leah, hoping that Angela leaves, and then flirting with the idea of doing a move that would be very good for her, which is take out Cam, but not doing it.
Well, we can't forget the flirting with the idea of putting Cam up but not taking him out, which would have been horrible.
Exactly. So just to walk through every step of the way why I don't like this, it's the first step of she plans to put him on the block, not to take him out, but just to scare him a little. Very Jared of her. And
yeah, you know who's mad at you from doing that? Cam, Rubina, and Kimo, and probably Chelsie. All of them.
It's an awful play. She ends up not doing it. She ends up, okay, well, what if I target Cam? It's like, okay, that is an actually good play because of many reasons. One of which is that you take out a threat to your game, so on and so forth. Her reasoning: he's throwing comps. We've carried him too long. Wild reasoning. What are you talking about? You want to evict him because he's throwing comps, and then you find out he's not throwing comps, and you're like, okay, never mind. I don't want to take him out. It's like,
also, who cares if he's throwing comps?
And then it's just to put the cherry on top, you tell him all of this.
Yeah, wild.
I was going to put you up, Cam.
That's so stupid.
But by winning power, Makensy continues to keep herself safe, and she doesn't even realize that that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, if you tell someone like I was gonna put you up, or I was thinking of putting you up. Oh, I like your little thumbs down. But it was.
I didn't do that on purpose.
I don't want to do it. It's not working for me. But yeah, like by telling someone I was going to put you up, that gives them a reason later on to be like, well, I'm going to put you up. Oh, well, you had said you were going to put me up. Like, even if they didn't end up doing it, the fact that that was even in their mind is something they can use against them later. So yeah, that's just, it's not good.
Yeah. All right. So rating wise, she was a 1 last week, which was not great. I do genuinely think, that there are a lot of scenarios where she leaves at the final 4. I think one is Chelsie wins HOH, Rubina or Cam win veto, maybe even if Chelsie wins veto. Then there's another scenario where anybody else wins HOH. Let's say like Rubina wins HOH, Cam wins veto. I think he evicts MJ. Let's say, yeah, I mean, it really just, there are, let me just quickly, because obviously Rubina gets evicted if MJ wins, or at least that's the likeliest option. I really don't even know what Chelsie does. I think Cam evicts MJ in every scenario where he has the veto. And I think Rubina evicts Chelsie or MJ if given the chance. More likely to evict MJ given that Chelsie can win HOH, but wouldn't be impossible for her to evict Chelsie either, which would be wild. So it doesn't look amazing for her. And then my thing is that even if she does survive, she's now in a final 3 where if she wins the final 3 HOH, she's taking Chelsie. So like maybe if Rubina wins the veto, evicts Chelsie, MJ, Cam, Rubina final 3, now MJ can win. Or somehow they get Cam. Maybe if she evicts Cam, MJ, Rubina, Chelsie final 3, Rubina wins final 3 HOH, takes MJ maybe wins. It's like I'm trying to find the scenarios where she wins, and it's just like it just feels like there aren't that many, and it requires her losing specific competitions because she's too likely to take Chelsie.
Yeah. I think
I'm giving her a 3.
I think there is a chance she would get to if she wins the final 3 HOH. I think that I don't think it's like 100% lock. Oh, she's 100% taking Chelsie just because she's friends with her. I think she still has been convincing herself that she needs Chelsie for whatever reason, that she's working with her. She needs to have allies and be on a side, but that she would do the smart thing and take her out at the end. I don't think that that's super likely, but I'd give her about at least a 30% chance of doing that. So I think it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd give her the highest chance of winning the final HOH. So,
all right, you know what? Listen, I don't want to be too confident on jury. I'm going to give her a 4 because I think that she's winning comps enough that it's like, okay, maybe you'll just be sitting there, and who knows? Like we're assuming Chelsie wins, but this jury could be wild for all we know.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's so tricky because I do feel like I'm kind of like I'm just still so disappointed. I just feel like I worked myself up thinking that, you know, she recognizes that she's on the outside and she could form her new thing and she's a comp beast. So like that helps her in whatever capacity, like whatever way she wants to move forward. Like if she wants to form a new alliance, like she can do so because she's winning all these competitions and doing all this stuff. And instead she just like kind of glommed onto an alliance that didn't really want her in the first place. I just think yeah, I really don't know what the jury is going to do. Like, I think like if she gets, it's a total possibility that if she gets to the end and she's just like, look at me, I comped out. I was alone the whole, like, you know, for most of the game and I'm still here because I won all these competitions. Maybe people are impressed with that. I don't know. I'm not super impressed with like just competition wins and then making bad decisions with those competition wins. But I do think that, you know, there is an argument to be made. I think I will give her the 3.
Yeah, and I've seen people saying like, are MJ's chances really that much worse than Cam's? I do think that Cam is more likely to win the game, but on top of that, like MJ is continuing to make actively bad decisions, whereas Cam is making good decisions. He's bonding with Kimo and Rubina.
Right.
He's saving himself from being nominated. Like, you know, it's just the way that they're playing is vastly different too.
Yeah. So for the people who are like, oh, well, you think Cam is this like a much better chance of winning the game than MJ? It's like, this isn't just about winning. This is about like how they're also playing, like, and what happens when they get to the end and who they're taking. Like, it's not just like in a vacuum, do they win? Like, we don't know who they're going to take or what they're going to do. And if we have somebody who's making decisions that are bad for their game, you know, historically, then we're going to assume that they probably will make bad decisions for their game moving forward. So that's kind of like, you have to take all that into account as well.
Yeah. I've been going back and forth. I wish I could go higher because I do feel like she still has some of the best chance of winning competitions here at the end, of just keeping herself safe. So I think that she's in a highly likely position to be taken to the final 3 or taken to the end or even win the final 3. But I'll say based on the playment of this week, which is below average despite her winning, I'll give her the 4.
All right. The audience is a little bit higher on MJ. They did give her the 5, but just barely a 5 there. It is below Cam's rating overall, but it does get to the 5 from the audience. Let's talk about Rubina. Looking like she will stay, but she is on the block. Things could theoretically change. Pretty disappointed with her not pushing harder to get the veto used, given that how close it was to being used and how much she procrastinated in terms of getting, having that conversation. By the time she had the conversation with MJ, she had changed her mind. If she had the conversation earlier, genuinely, I think Cam's on the block, maybe going home. So that's pretty upsetting. She did make an attempt to get MJ to turn on Chelsie, but it failed. So,
yeah,
not great.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm just not. I I wish that they had done more. I feel like this week could have at least been a little interesting. Not that I'm like, I really want Cam to go or something. Like, I don't. But I just feel like we at least could have had something like, ooh, wow, maybe Cam is on the block, or what's going to happen, or they could have had a chance. And the fact that they both were just like acting like they were just like on the Titanic and they were just like holding hands in bed or whatever. It's like, you guys could have jumped on the lifeboat or on the little wood door or something. You didn't have to just like sit there in the bed and accept your fate. Anyway, I think, yeah, I don't know. I do think Rubina is going to stay. And I think like I think if she gets to the end, I think there's a good chance that she could win. Cause I think, like I said, she has the trio. And I think that she could make a good argument like, hey, look at me, I'm alone here. And I think that like she could say, me and my crew have been targeted the entire time, and yet here I am. So I absolutely think that she could make a really good argument if she's in the final two. But do I think she's going to get there? I don't know. It's hard to see that at this point, because I feel like I don't necessarily see Cam or MJ making decisions that are like ruthless, quote unquote, and thinking like, I have to get Chelsie out. Like, I could win against Rubina, even though like I kind of think Rubina might win against them. Like the idea in their head should be, I need to keep everybody but Chelsie at this point. Like that would be like what I would be thinking if I was in the house. And so I don't see them doing that. I see them wanting to take Chelsie and like have the three of them. So I could see them just immediately being like, okay, now we only have one person left to get out before it's just us three in the end. So let's just get Rubina out this week and then let's move on. Like, and then we're in the final three together. Like I could see a boring thing like that happen. And I don't know if I see Rubina, beasting out and winning the veto or anything like that. So, I mean, maybe she will, but I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like it's looking great for Rubina. I just feel like her best shot seems to be against Cam right now in the final two. You can say she has Teak or Kimo. And then who else, right? Like, I don't think she's getting Leah. I don't think she's getting Angela. Maybe Cam cuts Chelsie to bring her, and then Chelsea's mad, so that there's a Chelsie vote there. But if Cam cuts Chelsie, I think he's definitely getting Quinn.
That's true.
So like, yeah, it just feels rough. Like maybe with Chelsie you get MJ, and you get MJ, Chelsie, Tikor, Kimo. Like maybe there's a world where you can pull those votes, but like it seems tough. Like maybe she cuts Chelsie, takes Cam. That's maybe the more likely option at this point, given that Cam is, I think, maybe a little less likely to cut Chelsie. And then you have Tikor, Kimo. Maybe you then get Quinn. I'm still not sure you get Leah, Angela. Leah was never a huge fan of Rubina. Yeah, and then I don't think you get Chelsie. I think it's tough. I just think it's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough to find the path to victory.
We've been surprised before, but yeah, I think this is a tough sell. Yeah. I think I want to give her credit for some of the work that she actually did this week. At least she tried more than Kimo, but long term, it's not looking great.
Yeah. Well, the audience went with a 3 for Rubina. I'm still hovering around 3 or 2 though, because it really just it just seems like a pipe dream, to be honest. And I do think I'm going to give her the 2.
I'm going to give her a 2 as well. I mean, there's still a possibility she goes home this week, but
exactly, she's on the block. Yeah. And Cam expressed interest in keeping Kimo. I talked about that this morning, but like I said, Cam has not been on the wrong side of a vote push yet. It's not like he's made a lot of progress keeping Kimo today or anything, but it is not impossible that this vote flips. And it's not like we expect really either of Kimo or Rubina to be pushing too hard in any direction right now.
I think just for consistency's sake, I have to go with the 3 because I think she did better than Kimo.
There you go. All right. That is it then. That is the Stockwatch for the week. I believe we only have one roundtable left.
Wow. That's wild. It's
One
crazy when
final
it gets to
roundtable.
be like so few people. Like you look at the rest of the people and like, remember we were rating like 16 people at one point. And
Yeah.
now it's like, it goes so fast.
All the way down here.
Jeez. It's wild.
All right. Well, that's it for the Stockwatch this week then. Any final thoughts?
I'm excited to see where this season goes. I feel like I really don't, like I said, I could see any of them winning. And I don't truly, I think like any one of them could have a good argument for why they should win. And I do hope that they, can argue their case when they get to the end. I know the speeches don't change anyone's minds necessarily, but I would like to see some good arguments there, especially for some people who maybe have not outwardly done a lot. It would be nice to see them kind of like step up and either do a lot in the end game or be able to argue, why they did the strategy why they used the strategy that they did, why they made the moves that they did, like what they accomplished, etc. I know it gets kind of a slog at the end, but I do feel like there is some room for some fun stuff to happen in the end. So I'm excited to see how this plays out.
Yeah. All
yeah.
right.
Excited for the end because I do feel like we have, despite Chelsie being the front runner, a lot of questions about how the jury could go. And so, at least that'll be interesting to see. So yeah, it's been a good season overall. Like I know that this was kind of a lower key Stockwatch here at the end, but like there's so few people. What are you gonna do? There's not gonna be drama here.
Just
yeah,
chilling.
It always gets that way. I feel it's like even if it's exciting, it's like, well, there's only like 5 people to rate, so there's not too much going on.
All right. Well, stay tuned. Of course, I'll be back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 26 live feeds. And then tomorrow night, no episode, but I'll be live on Twitch for Survivor. So tune in for that. And then Thursday, 2-hour episode. So plenty more coming your way. The Circle finale is coming soon. Check out the coverage for The Circle. The Summit has started. Or at least it's previewed or whatever they're doing. We have some coverage for that if you want to check that out. And of course, check out what we've got going on over at the Scripted feed. We know Scripted TV. Mary, what do you got going on?
Well, I hear the slop was like really good today, so you should probably check that out. I hear that.
Yeah, I heard Angela stopped by from the jury house.
I heard the same thing, which is wild. I don't know how Rob keeps getting these like jury interviews, but it's amazing. So yeah, people should probably check that out.
Yeah. All right. Well, you can of course find Melissa at It's Melissa with 3 A's, 3 of them. That is what we have for you today. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see all of you next time.